Hey friends, welcome to another episode of the 10 Laws Podcast with East Forest. I am the Forest of the East. Thank you for joining me. Got back from some touring. We got back from the Esalen retreat. I'm going to share some of those recordings on the Patreon, on the council soon. But quickly, I want to let you know that this month we're doing an open council. So every month I do a Zoom with a certain tier of our councilors, and it's a live meditation, and we get to witness and share with one another. And so to celebrate the end of the year and the solstice, we are doing that on the 21st in the morning, roughly. So go over to eastforest.org. You can see details about that, or patreon.com/eastforest. And then right after that, we're doing a YouTube premiere of the Music for Mushrooms film. So this is your chance to share it with everyone who hasn't seen it yet. I think this is the lowest friction to be able to see the film. It'll be on YouTube for a limited time on the holidays. You can also get that link at the YouTube. East Forest Music is our handle over there. And we're also putting that over in the tickets section just so you can see it, the link for that premiere. It'll be the same link if you want to go watch the film over on YouTube. You can probably search it too. Music for Mushrooms. And lastly, I want to let you know that we just announced all the U.S. West dates for the invitation tour in 2026. That's coming right up. Going to be in Europe first. London, sold out, but you can join the wait list. Dublin, Amsterdam, Zurich, Berlin. That's in late January, early February. And then starting February 26th, we're going to be in Salt Lake, Boulder, Colorado for 2 nights. Denver, Santa Fe, Tucson, Phoenix, Santa Cruz, California, Berkeley, Portland, Seattle, Vancouver, BC. And all those tickets just went on sale, so get yours now, eastforest.org/tickets. I hope you're having a good holiday season. Hope you're being able to just find some peace and centeredness. That's what we need, so you can walk out there and do your thing with a little more grace and directness of the open heart. We're going to get into this conversation with Parvati Markus. She's got this new book that she edited. She was part of the original Be Here Now book. We're going to get into that too. Hope you're doing well. Chat soon. Parvati, thank you so much for coming back on the show. You have this new book that I've been checking out. I like this cover, by the way.
Yes, they do too, very much.
There is no other Ram Dass. So right out of the gate, so Ram Dass is not in his body. Tell us how this book is in form. You helped make this happen. So is this talks, or was it writings, or a bit of both, right? And some other people?
Well, what it is really is I used probably 50 of his old talks, lectures, those types of things, not from the writings. I was not allowed to use anything that was in a previous book.
Why? Is that because like Random House owns it?
Harper actually was the publisher.
But Harper put this out. So,
Harper put it out. So I couldn't use old stories that were already published.
Okay.
But I went through probably 50 of his old talks and other things, and working with the archives of Love So Remember, and put this together in sort of a new format to be able to address what we wanted to address this time, which was basically starting with us versus them.
Yes, I want to get into that.
Yeah.
Would you say it's about us versus them, or within that, does it go a step further into like what services, or how do you use this as a mechanism for freedom in our lives? Or would you say largely that's the framing of it, us versus them?
Well, no, that's not really the whole framework. The framework is really, in the first part of the book, it's very much how do we reframe us versus them. Mm-hmm. And the second part of the book is about the divisions within ourselves. Right. And then the third part of the book is, okay, well, how do we come into wholeness? Yeah. How do we bring that all together? So that's the larger framework.
Before we get into this, can we just frame you a bit in this story?
Sure.
So you, I like to call it like the OG crew, who was part of the folks who were over there in India with Maharaji and Ram Dass. So, you were one of the lucky ones who was there.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was actually there during Ram Dass's second visit to India.
Right.
We actually left on the same plane.
Wow. Well, what was the vibe on that plane ride leaving?
Oh, God.
Just like, look at us surrounded. We're on a plane. Were you wearing the robes and stuff at the time? Or
No. But there were 8 of us that sort of were kicked out at the same time
Wow.
and had to leave. And I do remember stopping in Italy. Our plane stopped in Italy, and we ran out to get a bowl of pasta, which after a year in India was a big treat.
Right.
But we also, at that point, expected we would constantly be returning to India to see Maharaji.
Oh,
This was
really? So, I mean,
Yeah.
because let me just use as an analogy. When I was, and you write about this in the book, the last retreat that Ram Dass was out in Maui, and I was there. I certainly thought this might be the last time I see him, which perhaps was a little more obvious. But with Maharaji, you're saying you didn't. You really felt like there might be many more years.
We felt like
here.
he was eternal.
Right.
I mean, he wasn't going anywhere. Right. It was a complete shock when he left. Yeah.
I can
imagine.
So
it was not like we were leaving for the last time.
Right.
It was like, okay, we're going to go home. We're going to get healthy after a year in India.
Right.
And then we're going to come back.
We will get into the book here, but I want to talk a little bit more about this because I know folks are always curious about the lineage of firsthand accounts. So did you feel, or how did you feel the communications continued thereafter when Maharaji left his body for you? And tell us a little bit about your experience of, we've read a lot about Ram Dass being there, and I've personally heard from some others like Raghu and so forth. And I'd just like to hear. I'm not asking you to sum it all up. That's silly. But I don't know. Right. What just comes to mind now?
Well, I first met Ram Dass in 1969, in the summer of 69, when he was staying at his father's farm. And when I first met him, I was completely blown away by the light coming from him, and moved in immediately with the crew. It was like I had found my tribe, and sort of knew even at that point that I would be going to see Maharaji, because even though at that point Ram Dass wasn't telling us where he was.
Yeah, well, how did you even get to Ram Dass's house? Did you read Be Here Now, or?
No, this is before Be Here Now.
So he'd been to India once.
No, he had been there. He had come back from his first trip to India in 1968.
Yeah.
And he had been, doing some lectures around the country. Not very many at that point. He had stayed very much to himself for quite a while. But I had taken acid for the first time recently, and had experienced, an incredible experience of oneness. And before that, I just didn't believe in anything.
Right.
And that sort of opened up a lot of possibilities. And a few weeks later, I met a guy at a party who said, "Hey, you want to go meet a saint?" And 3 weeks before, I would have said, "Hey, they don't exist. Are you kidding me?" But now I said, "Sure, why not?" And he took me down. We were in Vermont at the time, and he took me down to New Hampshire to see Ram Dass.
Who's that guy?
That guy was a guy named David Hatch. He had actually started the very first health food store in Vermont.
Okay, nice.
But he died many years ago.
Okay.
He's
all right,
long gone from the story. But we did spend the summer together at Ram Dass's.
Okay.
And he had helped build the pavilion in the woods that we used to meditate in.
Is that where you'd see footage of people in the big lawn, or is that the next summer? That was that summer.
No, that's that
playing
summer.
The sitar, and everybody's doing it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
Yeah, and I spent that summer really. The third day I was there, Ram Dass said, "Can anybody here type?" And I raised my hand, and I wound up spending the summer mostly sitting in front of the typewriter. Back in those days, Ram Dass was getting not email, snail mail at that time from people from the different talks he had given around the country, and he would respond to these on a cassette, and I'd sit in the barn all day long listening to Ram Dass typing up his responses to all these people's, mail things. So I sort of learned the vocabulary of my new life. I sort of started learning the concepts and learning everything from, becoming his secretary for the summer.
What was your word per minute on the typewriter? Do you remember?
Oh, I was fast. I had taken a year's
Triple digits?
a year's secretarial course in high school. Best course I took in high school.
Yeah, I took typing class in high school too. As an early bird, and maybe too. Also, like, glad I did that,
Right.
Because you learn the QWERTY keyboard. Because you ended up authoring "Love Everyone" and "Whisper in the Heart." The love you're talking about, "Love Everyone." I always get them confused. "Love Everybody." The newer
Love
one.
Everybody is the story of the Westerners that went to India and actually met Maharaji.
Right. I read that. That was
Whisper in the Heart is the book of all the stories of about, 125 people who met Maharaji basically after he left his body.
I think I'm in that. So yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Right. So you kind of just stayed in this world. So you're sort of answering my question. I'm going to go back to it about how Maharaji is woven into your consciousness since you left.
Well, when I was in India, Maharaji said to me one day, he said, "You used to be Ram Dass's private secretary." He says, "Now you're mine."
Wow.
And so I had basically been given my job. And that's what I actually considered my seva, my connection to him to be, is through helping with all the books that have been written. I worked on Dada's books, By His Grace, The Near and the Dear, on KK's book, on Krishnadas's book, on Ramgiri's book. I mean, it's been a continuous thing that I have done.
Right.
Shortly after. I mean, the first book I ever worked on actually was Be Here Now.
Wow. Tell me about that. I saw one of the recently at the auction.
Boxes?
Yeah, I don't know, is that an original or what is that? It was like much larger. Looks like a papyrus thing,
Well, we called it the box.
Yeah.
And it was the predecessor of the book that as Be Here Now.
Right.
And after the summer of '69, when I was Ram Dass's secretary, when I went to New York and got a job so I could eventually go to India, he would send me his handwritten pages for the beginning story, for his story part of Be Here Now.
The brown pages or the white pages?
No, not the brown
beginning.
The beginning, his story.
Yeah.
Right.
Right on.
And I would type that up for him and edit it very lightly and send it back to him. I did not work on the brown pages, just on that section. The brown pages were done at Lama Foundation.
And who was the design person behind that?
Well, Steve Durkee, who was the head of Lama at that point, had a group of, I think there were 5 or 8 of them. I don't remember. I know Dworko was one of them. Of artists who basically divided up all the material into 108 sections and would work on one page at a time.
Right. And who did the narrative piece of the brown pages?
That was taken from when Ram Dass did a series of lectures in 1968, before I met him. He did a series of lectures at what was called the Sculpture Studio in New York. And I believe they must have been recorded because one of the women did some transcription of those. And those pages of transcription of those early talks by Ram Dass became the basis of the text for Be Here Now.
No kidding. So that's similar to this book in some ways.
In some ways it is. For me, it feels very much like full circle.
Wow, that's wild. I had no idea it was actually, because I had that mindset when I was reading this book about it being spoken. And sometimes I just put on that lens, like, is it different if it's being written, or how does that feel for me? Not that it matters, but sort of the rhythm of it, in a sense, coming out. And it does have a feeling like spoken, but thoughtfully spoken, as Ram Dass was. But I never thought that the original Be Here Now is the same way.
Yeah, it came from his spoken words. Yes.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So you're still Maharaji's secretary, personal secretary.
I'm still doing it, yeah.
Wow, that's so wild.
Yeah.
Well, so what comes to mind is, of course, to me, why this book now? And I was just thinking a lot about now, like what we're up against, and how Ram Dass's teachings are up against Trump and the change, and I mean the poly crisis that we find ourselves in of fundamental transition. And within that, I also thought to myself, what would Ram Dass, what would he be talking about right now? And I'm curious if you had that thought and you were sort of searching for creating that out of what he had said before, like how he might talk now.
Well, when you consider that I was working on this book basically during the election, and I was very much in a state of us versus them.
Right.
As many of us were. I'm right, you're wrong. I am judging you heavily on what you're doing, on who you are and what you're doing and all of that. And it became sort of my way of working through this in a lot of ways. Was, okay, well, what would Ram Dass do?
Right.
And let me read you a quote.
Please do, yeah.
From the book that really helped me tremendously.
Okay. Yeah.
He goes, my job is to work on myself, so I experience the place at which we're us, and then honor the diversity and the right of that person to do what they want. But when they start to do something that affects me or another person's rights, then I have to say no. Then I have to work to say no without closing my heart. That's the sequence I go through.
I read that today. No, it was the thing I pulled out of that was you have to say no.
Yeah, I mean, Ram Dass did protest in Hawaii. I mean, I actually have something that didn't make it into the book because I found it afterwards, which was when Ginsburg actually had him start protesting against, I believe it was the atomic energy sites against back in those days. And the big dialogues that he had with Daniel Ellsberg, about this and about what was the way to go forward with doing this. So this was on his mind for a very long time about what do you do.
Well, this is the line because especially today, the climate we're in of spiritual materialism and the Instagram spiritualism, so to speak, and you think about spiritual bypassing would be the initial criticism. When you get into let's move beyond us versus them, it's easy then perhaps to just say all is good, like we don't, it is what it is. It's all the grand play. And I see him saying throughout this book, sort of, he's speaking to the mystery itself. It's like one giant koan where he's saying it is all perfect design and we're needed to be in the world, make choices, sometimes say no, sometimes draw boundaries. But that's a tricky thing to hold. That's a tricky thing you have to say because the average person's like, what the hell are you saying? You're kind of, that in itself feels like a spiritual bypass. But I'm like, unfortunately, there's some kind of truth in that. How do we parse through this? And this feels like what he's talking about.
Well, to me, it all seems like the path. This is the spiritual path. This is the work. It's not something that's one and done.
Right. No destination either. It's a process. That's the point.
It's a process. Yeah. And he's basically giving us tools for, okay, how do we reframe our minds, our thinking? How do we clear ourselves of the emotional stuff that comes along with all of this and clear our minds and open our hearts? Because without opening our hearts within this process, without going past judgment, I mean, there's a whole chapter on going from judgment to appreciation. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean you then love that person, mm-hmm. But at least you don't go so heavily into I'm right and you're wrong.
Well, he's also putting it inside the kind of the idea of the soul's journey. So in some ways, you have to be on board with that in a sense to then go these next steps of like, then everything is within that context of we're all waking each other up in these different roles and different dances, like literally all of us, everything we're doing in this grand art piece that you can only even get a sense of what it feels like on the psychedelics is like the connectedness of it all. And of course, all being one thing that is just spreading out in a sense. But within that, let me just bring it back to today. Like, what do you think Trump and us having action, or just forget about Trump, just like authoritarianism, corporatism, takeover, essentially killing ourselves. We need to say no to things. We need to do things, but we don't want to get lost in the identity of just saying there's an other and I'm over here and that is wrong and I'm right. The whole righteousness thing.
Yeah.
But it feels that way.
Well, even though that's not in this book, what I go back to a lot is the Ramayana. Because here you have the dharmic, Ram and Sita and Hanuman, the good guys, so to speak. And then you've got this bad guy, Ravana. He's evil. I mean, he basically kidnaps femininity. He kidnaps the feminine.
How dare he?
He kidnaps Sita, which is also part of what's happening today. And it's the whole process of, okay, what did they do to bring down, to change this dynamic that's going on with him being with Ravana being such an exemplar of greed and materialism and lack of respect and, everything else that we are still dealing with,
right.
And it really helped me, when you go back in the Ramayana, there's like the backstory of who Ravana is. Ravana was actually a very high being at the gates of heaven. And he made some mistake and he got banished to earth for 3 lifetimes. And this was his last time. And he set it up so he could be killed by God, basically, and return once again, to his original self. So in other words, it was making you look at Ravana as a soul as well as the role that he was playing this time.
I mean, now you're making me. Of course, Trump is a soul, and then if of course there's roles, but then it's like, do we have to cut this deep in essence to turn the wheel, in a way?
Well, I had to go that deep in essence in order to live with what was happening.
Yeah,
I had to go back and see it as a much bigger perspective, as a much bigger stretch of time, as a much bigger playing field, so to speak, in order to feel calm enough to deal with my day-to-day reactions to every piece of news that was coming out.
So you're saying for you personally, you have to zoom out almost like past your lifetime in a way. You got to go into historical time or even maybe cosmic time to have a sense of place?
Well, no, it was really more the remembrance of the soul, not the role. Mm-hmm. That this was a role. Here, Ramdas has another thing that helped, which was in the book, which is when he was talking about Al Hunt, who was this columnist for Bloomberg View, talking about Jesse Helms, who was this very unliberal person, right? He opposed civil rights, homosexuality, you name it, he was against it. And Al didn't like Jesse Helms, and he said that Jesse Helms is an evil man. And here to quote Ramdas, I haven't said this to Al yet, but I'd like him to reconsider whether he'd be willing to say Jesse Helms is a being who does evil acts. That's a very critical distinction because the minute you identify somebody with their acts, when you find their acts reprehensible, you reject them.
Right.
So that was another way to sort of make a gap.
Right. It reminds me of cognitive behavioral therapy and the 10 distortions. Mm-hmm. And one of them is labeling and how destructive and toxic it is for yourself. And so when we label someone as a thing versus, acting like a thing or providing whatever it is, as you're saying, there is a real critical distinction there, internally for ourselves and how we view the world.
Right. Yeah. So those are just the things that I have personally used to help me I mean, I still go out and protest. I paint my signs. I do the whole thing, But it's like I try to do it without labeling, that this is an evil person or that this is an evil, administration, however you want to look at it. And trying to remember that it's bigger than that.
Ram Dass in this book used the phrase useful anger at one time. I thought that was an interesting phrase. Do you want to expand on that for me?
Yeah, that's something he got from Maharaji.
Tell me
quite
more.
Directly. Because there was this one incident that happened when we were there in India with Maharaji, where Ram Dass witnessed Maharaji screaming at one of the people who worked in the ashram. I mean, berating him horribly and throwing him out of the ashram forever.
Wow.
Okay. Worst possible thing imaginable. Basically, the man had let about 40 pounds of potatoes rot. And you don't do that to food in India. Okay. And so Ram Dass was completely shaken up. He had never seen Maharaji angry, and certainly never that angry, with the possibility of sending somebody to outer darkness, And later it resolved when basically what Maharaji said is, I could never be angry, not even in a dream. He said, you don't, you can use the anger, but you can't throw the person you can throw them out of the ashram, but you can't throw them out of your heart.
Keep going. Tell us more. So, I mean, was it a theater or was it?
So in a sense, it was whatever this person needed. It was anger specifically to do something for this person to, that the anger was directed at. It was not something, Maharaji wasn't angry. Maharaji was using the anger to accomplish something.
I'm going to give Maharaji a pass because he's Maharaji. But let's say someone else, like, what does it mean to have useful anger? When you're feeling anger, and where's the line? What is he saying? Like, what is he talking about?
I'm trying to think of Ram Dass being angry. And I know
I'm sure he did. Yeah.
And I know he was.
Well, he talks in the book about, he's like, I didn't like everybody and they're taking, my space from Maharaji and I was angry at them.
Right. And, that in that particular instance, I mean, Maharaji was telling him two things all the time. One was love everyone, and the other was tell the truth. And eventually Ram Dass was so angry at everybody that all he could say to Maharaji is, but the truth is I don't love everybody.
I don't love these people. Yeah.
I don't love these people. Right.
Yeah.
And of course, Maharaji worked with him. Ram Dass broke down in tears. His heart opened up. And he then turned around and looked at everybody as souls and not as the annoying roles they were playing in his life. And was able to then, from that place, love everyone.
Was Maharaji for you, was it just a vibe and an energy, or was it that on top of what he's saying? Or was it just purely
it was everything.
It's just the isness.
I mean, the most extraordinary part, of course, was being loved unconditionally. I mean, who of us ever has that experience?
But that's a feeling versus anything he says, necessarily.
No, it was actually, Dr. Larry Brilliant said it best when he said that when we were with Maharaji, of course he loved us. That was his job. He was a saint. He said, the real miracle is that when we were with Maharaji, we loved everyone. Mm-hmm. So it was more than a feeling. It was like actually living in a space of love. It's very hard to describe.
Does it feel different for you from a mother's love, like a healthy mother's love? That sort of unconditional, classic mother, like whatever, it's my child.
That's probably the closest image we can have of that, at the point where it really is unconditional. But usually in any human relationships, there are conditions, spoken or unspoken.
Do you think there's any Babas like Maharaji incarnate today?
I would hope so. I mean, I don't happen to know any, but then again, I'm not looking.
I wonder if they'd have like YouTube accounts, or if someone else would do that for them. And I just wonder like how it would look today. There's so many charlatans too. It's like parsing through.
You got to remember, Maharaji kept people away. I mean, he could have had millions of followers, and he did not allow that to happen. I mean, while he was alive, he made anybody who tried to gather stories about him or write anything up, he made them destroy it. It was like he did not, and yet today...
Here we are talking.
Here we are
talking about it, writing about it.
Still talking about him. And in India, I mean, you can't even go to Kenchi anymore without, thousands and thousands of people a day showing up there.
Well, he obviously, knew, or like he says, Ram Dass, don't talk about me. And then he did, of course. And he came back. He wasn't, I'm assuming he wasn't mad. He's just like, I know what's going on.
Right, of course. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, but he set it up so that Ram Dass, even though he talked about Maharaji all the time when he first came back, never told his name or where to find him.
Sure.
Except for some of us that he knew were on our way to go find Maharaji.
Sure.
Yeah.
So the book being about transcending, I suppose, or at least recognizing, seeing the us versus them model, how do you think that plays out against this world we're in of tech, AI, social media? That's all about polarization. The whole mechanism of grabbing our attention is by creating polarization and tweaking our animalistic human aspects. It's quite base level stuff. It's like the more polarization you do, the more we boost it, the more it gets people engaged in their emotions and everything going. So I don't know if there's a way you can talk about that whole situation that's going on pretty much since 2012 when social media really took off, but now it's in hyper form. And us trying to not be lost in that and not just see us versus them.
It's really hard to be a light in the darkness, isn't it?
But right there, it's like the light is the us in a sense, and the dark is the them. I mean,
it's I wish I knew the answers to these questions. I don't. I honestly don't. All I know is that I have to do what I have to do. You have to do what you have to do. We have to at least try to make what's happening as conscious as possible to help people become as aware as possible, not only of what's happening and what they can possibly do about it, but how they think about it, how they react to it, how they, can we help people expand their perspective on things?
Shake out of a dream in a way of a limited sense. I mean, us versus them is a very limited viewpoint. And we think back to, you were talking about the atomic era, and I was watching some stuff about that recently, really fascinating. We came out of World War II, and we had the bomb, and then the Russians had the bomb. And then when people are afraid, you look for somebody to blame. So for them, it was find the Reds, and it was immigrants. A lot of similarities to today.
Yeah.
And that's actually a human gross reaction. Like, you push us in certain ways, we will respond in very predictable ways, especially when you're fed information that's very simple answers in a sense.
Yeah.
But I do feel that when people have the space and the support to go within and learn about this, who they really are, or the fullness of what we really are, that there is a natural process of the sabak, of seeing the oneness and feeling like that we actually are, that loving everyone is not just a teaching, but there's a logic to it. It's almost natural. You feel love. Yet it can be stunted quite easily these days. And that's where things get a little tricky. It's not as simple as like everyone go within, because now sometimes that happens and that's where they stay. And it's just selling products or whatever. It's like, but we need to turn it into choices in the world, the humanness. It feels like that feels critical. That we are living in the world. We're not just using this as a mechanism to ease the pain.
Right.
He talked about being
now,
human,
Ramdas
right?
talks about that a lot.
Yeah.
He talks a lot about, how he tried for such a long time to just aim for the divine. Just wanted to be in the cave up in the Himalayas where the snow was pure, and how he finally had to acknowledge that he was in a human incarnation and had to work with being down here on Earth. And that's why he finally reaches the point where he realizes that his path is really love and service. And those were the things he exemplified in his life. And it's very interesting when he talks about the 60s in the book. And he's looking back and he's going, back in the 60s when so many of us were having this incredible experience of love. And, that everything was possible. Love was going to save the world, right?
Yeah, they're also going to put acid in the water, though. I mean,
they said it only required maybe putting some acid in the water supply.
Just a small amount.
Just and then he says, but the people who weren't having that experience were reacting with a tremendous amount of fear, because all the things they saw that they were comfortable with were being torn down.
Mm-hmm.
And so they reacted against that. And he said, and I feel a certain amount of responsibility for, creating, in a sense, this very conservative, very fundamental movement that was the polar opposite of where we were.
That was amazing, that section. Revolutionary versus evolutionary.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. He said it was a revolutionary moment, not an evolutionary one.
That is the main criticism of Tim Leary, right? That's sort of the knee-jerk, well, look what it caused, and they did it wrong, and it was too crazy. I've never heard Ramdas say that, where he sort of reflected on his role culturally. Yeah. Wild stuff. Yeah. I mean, again, if you go into he calls it the spiritual curriculum, or the viewpoint of it all being spiritual curriculum. For myself, that hits home because I find that to be a bit of a balm when I have that lens on life and the world for myself. And I've had that now for long enough that it's just baked in, that I just see everything that way. It doesn't change. I don't even know if I want to talk about this because it's so horrible and fresh, but it's an example. There was a terrible tragedy in our town here in Boise where an 8-year-old girl was hit by a car just down the street. And I saw the memorial and was killed. And it's just, just thinking about it, I'm just like broken in two, thinking about their family and how it was so close and this innocence of the child. And there's a piece of me that holds like the roles being played and the horror of it at the same time and the spiritual curriculum of it. And it makes me even like angry to feel that, yet that truth exists. And it doesn't lighten the load or the heaviness. It's kind of like Ramdas's letter that was in Fierce Grace to those parents who were just trying to, same thing, just makes sense.
Except the daughter was murdered.
Yes.
It was even worse.
Degrees of terribleness.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of trip to lay that out there. I understand how that can sound like spiritual bypassing and how that can sound like I don't want to hear that right now, because these other things is right in front of me. It's very real to people. And they could say the same thing about politics or people being sent to death prisons in Ecuador or wherever. Pick your terribleness. And those things are real and they are horrible. and it's inside. Perhaps it's just millennia of cause and effect that we're burning through in a way. I mean, our history's been rough.
Right. Yeah, let me read another one of these quotes from the book, okay?
Please.
It goes, "What I've seen is my sequence of going from awakening, but not enlightenment, to renunciation in order to get high, to realizing that I wasn't free, to turning around to look at the physical plane that I had been busy pushing away. I realized there was nowhere to stand. I couldn't stand in heaven and look at earth so it wouldn't hurt. I realized I had to be able to dwell in the place where it hurts and it doesn't hurt, a perspective that would allow me to keep my heart open in hell." And that's what you're talking about.
Yeah, that life is the point.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that seems on the face of it very obvious. Like, if you want to say, why are we here? Clearly it's for life. It's for the friction. It's for the things, the hell in a way, so we can, the richness of those experiences, boy, are they rich.
Yeah. That's why Emmanuel said to Ramdas,
Yeah.
he goes, "Hey, you're in school. You're in Earth School. Take the curriculum."
Yeah, it's one of my favorite quotes. Why don't you try taking the curriculum? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it's not easy. None of this is easy.
It takes bravery, though, and that's one thing to acknowledge. Anyone who's even drawn to this book or picking it up, we can both acknowledge that there's a piece of them that is called to that evolutionary spirit and their role in it, and recognizing that it's happening through them, not externally of them. It's like that is the process. And that is very participatory. I think that's hopefully the good news. It's like, actually, you matter.
Every one of us.
Yeah, you're
matters.
needed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every one of us.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to just talk about a little bit. Another thing in here I love is the golden chain and righteousness, and it's a tricky one. Oh. Tell us about that, because I do think. Well, it triggered me today when I was thinking about it. I was like seeing about righteousness, and I was like, oh, man, there it is. Yeah.
What were you thinking?
Well, I had something happen on tour, and basically someone who just was so destructive, right? So I have all these feelings of anger, and it just felt so senseless and all that kind of stuff, and how it was destructive. And so it's my, essentially, righteousness that they wronged me, right? And I remember Maharaji, didn't he say, like, anger, just let it go? Just let that go, because it's pointless. It's like, forgive. And so I sat there and I played with forgiveness. Like, I had to try it on and speak it and just be like, well, can I even do that? Okay, I can do that. Let's play with that. What's holding me back? And I could see that golden chain, that righteousness in there.
A lot of that is what Ramdas calls, clear the mind, open the heart.
Yeah.
Because it's those loops in our mind that keep us rolling around on that. I'm right, you're wrong.
Yeah.
I'm right, you're wrong. That's your mind, and your anger, your emotional thoughts. I mean, it's really the mind. Because when you do move from your mind down into your heart, it all feels different. But that's a long journey.
Yeah. Yeah. Who said the line? Was it in this book? I don't know. It was like, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy?
That's not in this one, but I know. Yeah, that is right.
Maybe that's a
Although I think
cornfield, wasn't it?
And Annie Lamott really says
Annie
the same
said it
thing.
in this.
Annie says it. Yeah. I like her line. She goes, here, let me quote from her. There's a great line in the AA Big Book where Bill Wilson urges sober alcoholics to avoid, quote, the deliberate manufacture of misery. This means no doom scrolling, no reading things where people brilliantly articulate my bad, contemptuous, shut down heart views on what's going on politically and socially. And she says she really always goes to Martin Luther King's saying, let no man pull you so low as to hate him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess I mean, I was reading that whole bit of hers when I was thinking about all that stuff. And then later on, it just kept kind of being talked about. That's really an us versus them thing, too.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I love that line, deliberate manufacture of misery. I mean, I fall down the rabbit hole all the time, and start doom scrolling.
Right.
And it's like, I have to stop and remember, I don't need to do this to myself or to anybody else,
No one's going to curate your consciousness besides you, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Or fortunately. I mean,
you're right.
That is a core truth. So it's important to, Ram Dass would talk about practice and what are the things that keep you feeling in the flow. And one of them, he'd talk about reading spiritual books, obviously being around people, yoga, meditation, so forth and so on. But it is true that reading something like this is a way to change your frequency and your vibe. And to remind, it did for me when I was looking at it yesterday and today. And I got to say, the more modern, I think it was Love Everyone or Love Everybody. That's the one that came out 10 years ago or something.
Yeah, Love Everyone. Yeah, 10 years ago.
I told you this before, but you probably don't remember it. But that book, like when I was going through a divorce, and I don't know if it was given to me or whatever, and I noticed that when I would read it at night, where it was really hard at night, it just kind of helped me get in the space so I could go to bed. But I was also simultaneously just reading about these Maharaji stories, feeling like, I think I read one of the stories that said people in India, like food cart owners, would just put his picture up because business would be better. It's just like good luck charm in a sense. And I really thought, I have nothing to lose. And I know nothing about this guy. And I printed out a picture from Google and I just slapped it on the wall. Well, here we are. I mean, all these years later, I can't even describe everything that unfolded after that. But the little, you feel like the look and the conversations and the things. And then you're just like, all right, I'll open to this a little more. And then I had magical moments with my now partner, Radha, with Maharaji and an image of him. That was like crazy synchronicities, and it brought us together.
The one at Ram Dass's house when you and Radha were there.
Yes. I mean, there's so many now, and he's looking at me right here, So anyway, there's something to reading that it's this private practice that feels like it cultivates an energy inside. And I think this book does that too. So congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. I want to just say that one of the other things he talks about in the book is satsang.
Yeah.
And it's so important that we don't feel alone as we're going through these times. That we do, on whatever level, whether it's digital or in person, get together with, as they say, like-minded people, or people that we know are also working on themselves and wanting to bring more light into, the situation in general.
Yeah, there's nothing like in person, right? I mean, that's a medicine or a balm that is needed more than ever these days. So when we can, I know how it's easy to say, I'm just going to stay home. I got my Netflix, or I can do the Zoom. I'm like, yeah, just do it. Go out there and rub shoulders a little bit and feel what it's like to be a human being in a room again, especially if you're feeling something that's a little vulnerable. That's powerful. Yeah.
So there are ways that we can help each other, and in doing so, help everyone.
Yeah, it's the old golden rule, too. If you want to feel safe, make someone else feel safe. And now you feel safe magically. Well, beautiful. Well, anything else that we need to know or you think you want to point out about this release? Is there an audiobook?
Yes, there is, which is a little strange for those of us who have spent a lot of time either with Ram Dass or listening to Ram Dass tapes, because, of course, it's not Ram Dass speaking his words.
You could do that now,
he wasn't available.
By the way. You actually could just train a model on Ram Dass and he could read the whole book for you. That would be weird, but it would sound like
that. Would be weird, yes. But anyway, there is an audiobook.
Okay. And
actually the voice actor that did do Ram Dass did, I think, a fairly good job.
Was he trying
You
to
know,
sound like Ram Dass?
He does. He's not
No.
trying to
Yeah,
sound
of
like
course
Ram
not.
Dass.
Okay.
He's trying to be himself, but he's taking it lightly.
Good.
It's not ponderous in
Oh,
any way,
good,
which is
good.
what I was afraid of.
Good.
And I think that for those who prefer audio to reading a book, I think it's still a very valid way of getting this information.
Wonderful. Well, there is no other. The Way to Harmony and Wholeness. Ram Dass. Edited by Parvati Markus. Well, there's lots of other people who, Annie Lamont and Sharon Salzberg, Joseph Goldstein, Jack Kornfield, Mirabai Bush. So some other contributors, some heavy hitters.
Yeah.
Very good. Wonderful.
All right.
Well, thanks so much, and hope to see you out there at one of the retreats or something.
You coming to Maui?
This year? No, next year maybe. Uh-huh. Yeah. But I am going to Maui, but I'll be there later, just in Maui. So.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, Parvati.